Alrighty, this is an annual event for Trilinos. We try to have an open discussion, try to get feedback from users and developers on essentially any topic that they have relevant to Trilinos. What we've done this year is we've set up a Google Doc so everybody can actually get on there, even via their phone. We have a QR code up there to try to get there. Feel free to post questions, comments, whatever there. We're going to slowly work through what we currently have. We'd love to have questions from the users and developers. We have some seed questions to try to get conversation going. But first off, since we've tried to communicate this ahead of time, we haven't actually gotten any postings from folks.
I think your cursor's on the QR code.
Is that messing everybody up?
I was able to get to it, but I wasn't actually able to update the document.
Oh, you were not.
I ended up emailing myself to you.
But Malachi was able to.
This is
okay.
not a
I wasn't.
Sandia phone,
I
this is my personal phone, not logged in.
Okay.
Where are we supposed to put stuff in here?
Just start adding it to the bottom of the list here. Normally what we've done in the past is tried to take quick votes on what are of interest to each other. I would say, given what the set of questions that we currently have, what is of interest to folks to start discussing? We have some general categories of like feature requests, challenges, success stories, pain points, and CI coverage, performance tracking, show of hands, suggestions. Should I just go through and we vote?
Start with the pain.
You want to start with pain? We can do that. Any particular pain folks are noticing? Go right ahead, please.
Okay, so one thing that, so I could see other people who had done recent e-vector conversions. One thing that kind of confused me when I was doing the conversions was it wasn't clear how some things mapped between the two of them. Particularly, so we used the FE, CRS, matrix, assembly stuff heavily in e-vector. The impression I got both from looking at documentation and LLMs was that we probably just shouldn't do that anymore and just do import and export, but is that true?
No, the FE in e-vector is substantially better than the e-vector.
Ah, okay.
Way more efficient. There's the allocation caveat to that.
Yeah, I mean, I read it.
But it's way faster.
Yeah.
It's way faster. So like,
Is there a good place to point? Because when I looked through stuff, I basically did not find any documentation.
there is a practical example of how to use it in the examples. Called FE matrix assembly.
Okay, well, the LLM seems to think not to do it. So.
Which is weird. I would never use the e-Petra FE. That's a bad idea.
Oh yeah, I don't know whether I read that. I was just converting it straight. And I was like, oh, this doesn't exist. Okay, well, let's figure out what I need to do. I guess kind of on a related note, I noticed also that all of the e-Petra oxygen is gone, which is good from the perspective. I don't want LLMs reading it because I had a lot of elucidations to deal with because of that. But if there's a easy way that I could build it just for reference, sometimes just when I'm looking back at our old code, it would be good to know what things actually did, even if I'm not using it anymore.
Is it possible to retrieve that by like going to the snapshot in 16.2 release? Or?
Well, whatever website I've been using before, it just disappeared. I think we moved your documentation. So.
Yeah, we have, that was one thing that we have been working for is refreshing the Trilinos web page. You know, we basically started saying, oh, okay, let's not propagate the e-Petra. Then you do run into this problem of, oh, hey, if you'd like to go back and look at stuff. It is a repo. You can go in and pull back an older copy of the document, the GitHub IO site, and rebuild that. There is notes on there. I will grant you, it's not difficult, but there's a sequence of steps you have to do.
So I will say on the Sierra project,
I guess I could try that maybe too. Yeah.
we keep manuals that are tied tied to like each version. So like there's a Sierra Daily, and then like the last release previously released. So I wonder if that might.
Yeah, Trilinos used to do that, and it provided a lot of extra complication with very little usage.
And there got to be, like, for search results and things, it would go back like 8 years.
Right, and you don't
would
want to
keep
pull up
pulling
a
up
page for like
it was
13.2.
very messy.
Yeah, but I mean, you can deal with that when you're pulling up like LLVM documentation, right? Like sometimes it'll point you at something like LLVM, like.
Or some developers branch from 6 years ago and it's trying to tell you something.
Yeah, well, it's a common problem across products, I don't think it's unique.
Yeah, it's not unique to you guys.
There's like there's usually, like the Python documentation especially, or like the Spack documentation is like, this is not the latest version.
Yep, yeah, I love when Google sends the old version, you're like, Google, you
Yeah,
failed.
but there's usually, it's true, but there's usually like a banner at the top, right, that
Then you have
captures
to
like,
click
hey,
on
by
it.
the way, this
Yeah.
is not the latest version of this documentation. It's not the.
It says trying to connect and it's more not.
Oh, no, the taxes are good.
Maybe I need to get somebody else. Oh, well, let me see here. Maybe it's just me. I may have lost my my connection.
Or get too many windows open.
Do you want to unplug and?
Yeah, what, you want to go right ahead. I thought I was up, but
I mean, you can have a web browser where you can have events.
It's not Emacs, I'm sorry.
Really? The IRS has an Emacs package.
You
Oh.
want me to like ambiguify?
yeah. And what I did is I copied it down. So this is the abstract, and if you go down a little bit further, here. So okay. A question from the TICO lead. Who is that? I know.
So this was what I gathered from Marco's talk was, I mean, this is totally the case when I was first playing around with Tico. You want to know what options are available, you pull up the header file, you read what's there. Yeah, I think at the very least, we can throw together a lot of examples for like, you know, how do I solve Navier-Stokes using Tico? So maybe just like adding an example usage there would be very helpful for people who want to start using this.
So as part of the update and refreshing of the Trilinos web page, you may notice that there's now a capabilities page listing the capabilities and then the appropriate packages that are supporting that. One of the next steps we would like to do is actually have, connections to canonical examples of that capability. And so, you know, such that you're talking the capability and not the package, but that obviously would link to, hey, we do have examples and other tutorial examples that we could link to, but we want to get that path set up. Also, I've been saying canonical examples, but the idea is that if a graduate student had a class in that field, you would like to have an example there that they would say, oh, I recognize that. I can see how that works. Oh, I know how to extend that for my problem. So in that sense, for us, a lot of this is old hat. You start talking at too high of a level, where if you say like, oh, I just need to do a problem out of a graduate level book, just do that simple problem, that's going to be real helpful for new users and developers. But I agree, I wanted to talk to Marco some more and find out, tell us your headaches, because sometimes you get blinded to what are the difficulties, what are we assuming that we shouldn't be.
And I mean, clearly this is not a TICO-specific problem in any sort of way.
Yep, I mean, this is true for all of our packages.
So in this vein, right, I mean, we're now gonna be faced with like agents and stuff consuming Trilinos and being guided and that thing, right? And I've heard discussions about making repositories and documentation better for AI accessibility, so that when they do read the things, they get the right thing out of it.
Yeah.
And this kind of gets into what Jeff was getting at. So
Yep.
it seems like having a strategy for your AI consumption and how that's going to work.
You bet. Yeah, that's has definitely come up. Sorry?
Making the documentation AI ready.
Yeah.
Or having a version or some kind of annotation that is, right? I don't know if they're the same thing, right? Is what we read the same thing that what AI should be reading? Or is some kind of metadata, you know, like we use Doxygen, right? We use
Yeah.
Doxygen, we read the docs and stuff.
At least the impression I got from reviewing the AI was that it was mostly working off the Doxygen stuff, and then if it didn't know the answer to my question, then it would actually go look at code. But even then, I don't think it really liked doing that.
I'm a secret, just love and actually.
Or who's back there?
Oh, who's that guy? I don't know.
We're talking right around all your AI stuff.
The question is what, to make documentation, I guess AI ready.
Yeah, I think there are ways to improve it. I think, there's been some work on what are called skill files, which allow you to advertise in a structured formatted way using YAML or some other markdown JSON format. Specific skills that a product can accomplish that it has, and then also information about how to, call it to get that work done. And so it is human readable, but it's not readable in a Doxygen format. Instead, you put effort into, calling out specific skills that a product has, and then making those available through a structured directory that is discoverable by an agent to get its work done. So those are things, and we're within the CAS, Consortium for Advancement of Scientific Software. We have a software ecosystem working group, and that's one of the things we're focusing on going forward, is what do we have to do to prepare our documentation and additional metadata about products to make them discoverable and usable metadata.
Are there ways to sort of automate that process so that if somebody writes?
One of the cool ways I played around just this last week was let's say take Trilinos and say you want to solve a particular problem, read in a matrix markup file, walk through the steps of just letting the agent discover how it can solve that problem. It'll make mistakes, guide it. You're just typing English, and then it gets to the bottom and it's finally solved it in a way that you think is optimal, and then have it generate a skill file for that experience. What you've done is you encoded your expertise into the skill file along with the capabilities of the library in a way that should be discoverable by an agent in the future.
Does that, to me, that requires a slightly different type of, it's valuable, very valuable information called skills, but it's different than, for example, somebody looking up, I need information on a particular interface.
Well, it exports that knowledge, right? And the interface has been discovered already by the agent. It's already successfully called the library to solve the problem. Because it's used the Doxygen documentation, presumably to figure out how to call it. But it's solve a specific problem, a specific kind of problem, which I think, our Doxygen stuff doesn't necessarily do a great job of. It just says,
That's right.
you already know how to solve your problem, here's how you call it.
But that might be, somebody might already know how to solve it.
Yeah, most of my questions were just API questions, but maybe
Yeah,
it wouldn't be.
yeah, it just depends, right? It depends on the situation. But if you want to export that knowledge of how to solve a problem, a specific way of calling packages or Trilinos, make that useful to other people, then, these skill files are a way of trying to.
I can see that as a build, like the question about how to make it easier to build and use Trilinos, because that sounds like a skill, right?
Absolutely.
That's not necessarily documentation, it's
Yep.
the pitfalls, right?
Yeah, take a talk from Sam, the one we gave yesterday, on building it, and have him walk through that process.
You would have to, because one thing that didn't make it into my talk content was I tried to do some level of due diligence and say, can I advise people to just ask a chatbot as is, based on what it can already find on the internet? How should I build Trilinos with the Mulu solver stack, the Mulu package turned on in a meaningful way? The results were not good.
Yeah.
But that's
But now sit down with VS Code, with
If I wrote a
Codex,
skill for it.
with Codex.
Yep.
Right, and walk the Codex
shocked if it wasn't very capable.
Yeah.
So maybe that's a good exercise, right, is to like take a workflow like me building on El Capitan, and then try to lead an agent through it and explain why you have to use a skill file. I mean, we could do that for products or something.
This is not unlike what I did. So those examples I showed in my talk were all pretty much like vibe coded together, just to throw it together. And to do it, I had to like do lots of t-tetra matrix assembly stuff, and so I tried to use that to do everything as much as possible. And it was so like frustratingly close to getting everything right that there were just a few things I had to coach it through to make it resolve, and that would probably be most useful there, so that
And that's
it
what the
actually
agentic
understands.
workflows by us, right?
Right.
Is this interaction, right? It's doing the work you're coaching it, leading it through the process.
Yeah. So I should pull up the chats and just make some of those skill files from there.
And do those skill files, do they get published as part of the Trilinos source?
We're trying to figure that out. The answer is maybe. I think my sense is that you have a set of directories that are in a special location in your repo, and the leaf directory folder name is descriptive of what the skill is, and then inside there is a skill.md file that has all the structured information about how to invoke the product to apply that skill.
So it sounds like there hasn't been a sort of a settled sort of,
These are all evolving, but if you look at, there's a skills webpage that you can go to, I think it's like skill.io, something like that. It's findable, very easy to find. But although like Anthropic is busy doing this kind of stuff, in particular, I think they've been a leader in this space. But lots of companies are trying to figure out what's out. The model context protocols are part of this, agent files are part of this, right? These are all, but it's just such a rapidly evolving field right now. I'm glad I'm retired so I can spend time learning.
We still have to be something that are curated, otherwise it'll be the same as all of our config items that are just floating around like a million.
Absolutely, yeah.
They get obsolete and.
They do, no doubt. Yeah, there should be an update option on all of these, some way, don't know how to do that really.
It can be cyclic too, right? So you can work with an agent to write skills, and then you can ask it to sort of like staticify that into part of the actual build system, right? So it's kind of like a self-verification thing.
So what if we put slash Trilinos on GitHub, and then we had Trilinos dash skills as a repo?
Yeah.
And then we could all contribute to that, and maybe make our own, because if we put it in the Trilinos repo, it's gonna be a mess to commit to.
That's true, but for that particular artifact, in the long term, you probably do want it to be version aware. So consider putting it into the Trilinos repo is the simplest way to make it to, correspond with the correct version of the code, but you wouldn't have to do it that way.
You just tie it to it.
Yeah, you can coordinate it across repositories. Just wanted to observe that that's the kind of thing that will almost certainly evolve as the ways to call the different packages change. And you probably don't want to lose the old ones.
Make sure the dependency tracking for that directory so you don't need to build Trilinos. No, I'm serious. I'm serious.
That's my point,
Yeah.
touching that directory is, the repo, right, is a pain.
Right. But you can.
But we can disable
I'm just moving the microphone closer to see if we actually have a chance to pick up some of the conversation.
Oh, is this being recorded?
I think they record the whole thing and then they go back and then they
This will
chop
be
it
on
out.
YouTube.
It will, maybe. I know the talks last year, we just basically said, oh, let's not deal with recording it. So I said, don't worry about recording it. They still showed up on YouTube last year, so.
Maybe one of the skills too could be, one of the challenges I find is with, BYO data structure. I have an app, I have my data in some format, and I want to know how I can adapt my project to use Trilinos in the fewest steps possible, right? Like, put my stuff into a t-tetra CRS matrix and call the solvers, right? Like, I think that's a need, and that would be something that I think an agent would probably be really good at.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. Anything else related here? move on to a new topic.
New topic, this would be dependency stuff, and I've asked this before, but like, how do you, what, just on a day-to-day basis, how would you deal with, maybe Trilinos and Cocos getting out of sync? 'Cause I know you guys said that you guys are gonna kind of release on similar cadence, which is awesome.
Yep.
But, like, you know, let's suppose we're in a situation where, LC has rolled out like 18 different ROCMs in the case of a week, and Cocos decides it needs to do a bug fix. How easy is it to work that back into Trilinos within the system?
I can answer it, if you want it to always be correct, right now it will always be correct in Spack.
Okay.
There's a rule in there that locks.
But yes, but let's also assume that my host A updates Spack like every 6 months. And 2 has been working on some crazy Spack branch for like the past several years.
Are they willing to?
Yeah, they patched stuff into it.
Are they willing to do the separate package repository that they then update
Yeah.
more frequently?
Yeah.
It's probably the fix for that one.
Okay.
I'm not saying that's the only.
I mean, that's what I figured I might end up doing, but I was wondering if that's the right thing to do.
They're not guaranteed to be backward compatible with an older version of Spack, though, right?
They are, my understanding is there'll be an API version for the
Okay.
packages, so yes, they will be within some window.
Sure, but for
Um,
now, yeah.
For now, that's part of the whole reason they're doing it, so I don't know how far off they are.
Yeah, I mean, we tend to stay on Spack caches for way too long, but if it's something that could be easy for me to hack it into a separate repo.
Yeah, I think with it,
that would be the best way.
and that's a Spack guard, right? Like,
Yeah.
that I think the Cocos team primarily keeps up to date. When it comes to the vanilla build system itself, like just doing CMake, there's an uncomfortable tension of you want the developers to be able to build against any version of Cocos.
Yeah.
Because
And we always build
how
external.
else would we do like
We
a
always
snapshot?
build external Cocos anyway, because like we're really the only package that uses Trilinos. Like, but tons of other people use Cocos, so I don't want us to be holding up their workflows if I can avoid it.
I don't want to manufacture things that don't exist, and might just exist in my head. I don't think we have a check at configure time to say, this is not the blessed version of Cocos.
Yeah.
It's maintained by T-Petra.
Yeah.
T-Petra and CMake will say, I'm expecting at least like 5.
You're right.
It's
That's-
one-
But
it's one
the
flag.
actual
It's just
version
one
check
flag
is just in the
pass.
Spack package when it
No,
needs
I'm wrong.
information.
The version
Okay.
check is in
It's in
Trilinos
CMake.
itself,
Oh,
which is
yeah.
why the Spack packages can be broken.
Okay.
And then when you go to when you go to build Trilinos, configure Trilinos is when it shows up. So ignore everything I just said. It's safe no matter what.
Okay.
In theory.
Well, but who's ever doing notes, the skills that, it's agent skills that I know.
Agents minus skills?
No, not just all one, agent skills.
So the other issue is to support more version of Cocos, like at least minor version, because.
Yeah, like major stuff, of course, it's got to fix, but if it's just a 4.7.37, whatever, some bug fixes, I would assume that it would still work.
I believe that the way Cocos advertises their version capability to work, they are guaranteeing that you can advance the patch version safely.
Yeah, that's
in
what we had
Trilinos.
a conversation about doing. I don't know if that ever got implemented, but they were gonna do it within the patches.
I think
Not
it's
the minor version, but the patch.
Yeah,
Whatever the third number is.
I think that it'll allow you to change the patch version, the third one.
Yep.
I mean,
That is
really,
fine.
we want to get to a place where we always have the most up-to-date Cocos version in Trilinos. So you shouldn't be holding anybody back. If anything, you'll be
Pushing.
Well, but that's
pushing
right,
forward.
that's the other problem, right? When
I mean, like literally, they'll see a new Cocos and say, oh, let's update it to this Cocos, some new one appears. and
I
they'll
mean,
do it.
we're typically not far behind. Like in
Yes.
the last year.
Sandia users are screaming for the newer version of Cocos.
Yeah.
I don't know that I can promise a specific time period, but like, I think it's almost always within a month.
Right, I think the issue I have is the opposite, so.
Yeah.
I have another code that is your older version of Cocos and.
That sounds like an issue for the Trilinos developers, if they wanna support, backward, older
I
versions.
mean, if you go to a major version, fine, but within a major, like Cocos 5, we should support a few, I don't think a few minor releases of Cocos.
You're saying support the previous major version or no?
It was minor versions.
Minor.
Any
Yeah.
minor within the
Major
same
is really
major.
hard, but.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because even being between Cocos 4.7 and 5.0 is very painful.
Right,
But
right.
I guess
That's-
even supporting it though means that you're implying that you want to build all of the minor versions within that
And what
major
does that
version if
mean?
you wanted to
Like,
test
you
it.
want to support ones that have bugs
At least
Yeah.
one. I mean, for example, now you can.
But those
keep
are the patch versions. Like, those are the patch versions. So like you could support Cocos 4.7,
Right.
and then you just wanna make sure you're on the latest patch version, because the latest patch version has the bug fixes, right?
I think that's probably the sensible way to do it.
Yeah, but the Trilinos right now version is Cocos with the patches, right? Patch version. So it says like Cocos app this release depends on, Trilinos app this release depends on Cocos app, this patch version.
I don't remember off the top of my
I
head.
wouldn't say it does, but.
It probably, I think through Spack it's restrictive.
Yeah.
I think that the check will allow it to be.
I mean, there's a way you could rewrite the package to
Yeah,
include
I mean, yeah,
all
we
the
can
patch
do whatever the
versions.
developer and the user community amalgamation want to.
Yeah.
It's a complete dependency spec
Mhm.
language.
So you can't really override the check, if that's what you want.
Yeah,
But
you can.
it's really like, okay, it's on you. And this is not the version that we promised that things will work with.
And
So
how
if
do you overwrite the check then in Trilinos, since you said that?
It's
Is
a
there-
two-petra,
is
it's
there
a
CMake
two-petra
option?
flag or something.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's a
so
CMake option.
two-petra CMake. Yeah, so you can hack your Trilinos spec package to automatically add that in when you're at developers.
Or you can, I think there is actually a way to pass arbitrary CMake options.
Through the
Just
email
through the
engine.
interface.
Petra supported Cocos version.
Yeah.
T-petra supported Cocos version, that's it.
So something you could do, you could test like, I don't know, like from now on,
Is it
like
your AI?
5.0.
Oh, is it CMake release?
Copos 5 release. And
It's-
it
it's
would
all
be just
possible.
one check, I mean, it's not many. So it's-
It is very possible. We currently don't check external Cocos in the CI at all. But we could, and we could do any number of versions as long as we keep track of them.
You always built it internally, Cocos
Yes.
and Cocos kernels?
In Trilinos' CI,
Oh, I didn't know that.
What about Nightpiece?
in any Trilinos automated build, but through
Oh.
Spack, it's always built external.
The spec is
Okay.
part of your
I'm
CMake
okay
process
with
as
that.
well.
That's
But it's
fair.
non-block.
You're right, we do
So-
have
so
one.
you technically test
We
it.
we do test it, but I wanna emphasize that particular check is very basic. It's like,
Does it
we're-
advertise?
it doesn't install, but all it does is Spack install Trilinos at develop. That's it.
Yeah.
With the head of Spack only. So
Yeah.
no old Spack versions. We're, like, the whole point of that was like, did we break anybody that's using Spack to build Trilinos?
Right.
That simple question, not like anybody that's using any Spack to build any Trilinos. But it's really it's a basic smoke test,
Okay.
super basic.
Yeah, because Sierra builds Cocos and Cocos kernels externally.
Yep.
Yeah, it's good to know that's covered.
And I think, I don't know if Joe highlighted it well enough, but yeah, you can build any Trilinos package externally. If you
Yes,
want to.
with the mini packages, yeah.
Because Trilinos is but a collection of whatever member packages you enable at the time.
If only we had written our own Trilinos package that was built.
Yeah. I really don't think we need that. We, Sierra, need that anymore, to be honest, but I'm not gonna go do the work to, I mean, I've got enough other stuff to do right now to go pursue that actively.
We'll do it someday.
Alrighty. And any other topics folks want to bring in? We can ping the list.
I could keep harassing people. I got so many questions.
Go for it.
So I guess I mentioned the forbidden other solver package earlier and your connection to it. Who's the person to contact with that, or what's the best way for me to get support of that as I run into issues? So I did try to do it myself, and there was some stuff, and I was like, oh, this must not be supported, so I didn't even bother contacting you guys. But
What kind of support are you looking for?
like, well, some of it was Spack built stuff, because like I couldn't get Hyper and Trilinos to have the same like local and global entity type matches up, scalar types. But
I'll take a
some of
stab.
it would be like, you know, because the code doesn't seem like it's been touched in a while either. So
I'll take a stab at that and say, Tim Fuller asked us to turn on the hyperdependency in a CI build. This was prior to us using Spack for all of our TPLs. So we said no, because we had very poor control over our TPL stack. It was built by an external team prior to our containerized approach. My opinion is that it's not that big of a deal to add it to the containers now if we wanted to turn it on in a build, but that's like an architectural standpoint. I'm not taking an efficacy, should we, kind of.
I mean, I can certainly test it in some limited situation. Problem
This is
it's
using
a
hyper
secret.
through IFAC too, is that?
Yeah. So we had used it in our ePetra code through IFPAC, and we had to make some hacks to it, and, you know, we had asked about it at the time, and people were like, well, we don't really want to support this, but I think that was more because it was ePetra and you guys were already moving off of this. And I think we were the only, like, people were, whoever we talked to was surprised that anyone was using this.
So I know that like Exawind has been trying to use hyper.
Okay, and we just wanted for
this, but I don't think it was.
but I'm also interested in your view of this stuff too, so.
I think they just go directly, actually.
Oh, they just all hyper directly.
Well, kind of, that's another story. They use their own version of hyper, right?
But like I said, Tim did ask for that. I don't know if I don't know what the specific use case was or if they still need it.
So,
That's probably.
you own IFAC too, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's right.
Okay, so I
So
should be
start with
asking
John.
you
You
this.
should like me.
Okay. Yeah, I guess this is the other question too. I mean, you guys are open source code, but I don't know if you have any special priority for Trilab users, if there's a better channel to contact for support or not, or if you just want everyone to go through like GitHub issues or something.
I mean,
like
if you
that.
can specify what exactly it is that you need, you know, that's maybe the best, I mean.
GitHub issues gets
Yeah.
more eyes.
Yeah. That's, I don't know who fits the most eyes.
More
I don't
of
know
a-
how much people actually use some of these tools.
More of a
We have tons of ways of reporting things that people never look at, so.
We do look at-
It's always good to talk to the actual developers to see like, which way would you prefer us to do this?
So you get eyes on GitHub.
Yep.
If you want like concierge support, bug Kurt or Jonathan for IFAC too. I
Okay.
guess.
Cool, thanks.
Cool. Any other topics? Any other pain points? Let's just get a little specific. Any pains people would like to share? Things that they'd like to see a little bit better?
And I could also mention the success thing. I think building Trilinos is way easier than when I used to first started doing this, so good work with all the stuff y'all have done.
Yep, yep.
I have to say though, when I got started building Trilinos, it was really easy.
There's a joke in there somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, I think I first got involved with the project I work on. I think right around the time y'all were converting to CMake, and it was a very confusing time for someone who was first coming into this for the first time as to what I should do.
Yeah, I appreciated Sam's questions yesterday about who's heard that Trilinos is hard to build, or actually know that it's hard to build, and who's heard, and you know the hands just kept going up.
For me, I don't consider it hard to build at all now. I think I'm totally happy with it.
Yeah, I didn't really get into some of that, but like,
Yeah.
be careful to involve difficult with just like a lot to read. Tribits is very good at telling you exactly what went wrong in the configure, but you have to be willing to read a lot of output because it's not always at the bottom.
It's never at the bottom.
Well, that's frustrating too, though.
Never is a strong word, but it's frequently not at the bottom.
Well, just the Spack packaging, you know, automatically getting the TPLs that kind of, right, like if you build Trilinos without Superlube, you know, it's kind of gonna
Jim made a really valid point earlier, which was Trilinos was the canonical example for like, here's why you would want to use Spack in their tutorials. Like, look at how much software it's going to build
Yeah.
underneath it, and it just does it for you. Not just, but it does it for you.
I mean, I was joking. We were talking like peer review gets a bad rap too, but like I also
Peer review's the other one.
don't find peer review as annoying to build as seemingly everyone else I work with. They're like, oh, it took 4 hours to build peer review. And I'm like, so it'd be like 20 minutes. Like, what are you doing?
On a related note, something that's come up often has been, if we could codify the specs that Sandia needs for Spack, for TPLs across all of us, so that we could push that to the Spack side and to the vendor side to make sure that they're testing the builds like AMD, right? To make sure that their compiled toolchain can build the stuff that we're gonna depend on later on.
Yeah,
Asking
so-
them to do the Trilinos is harder, but just having a list of specs has been a request.
Yeah, that's a good one. We can provide that today, given our CI containers now. Like we can say, here's what we build in our CI containers that then gets picked up by Trilinos. It's generally not very interesting, which is good because not that special. We use the default specs for almost everything. There are specific exceptions, and the one that I can think of is boost. We have to turn a specific boost package off or toggle a default, right?
So I talked with Joe Fry a little bit, and both of us don't use the default specs quite often. And we do that because we're trying to get things like static builds on these things, where you end up with Spack going off and doing awful things that you don't want. And like in the case of cell cap stuff, right, we spend an awful lot of time making everything staticized in Spack or whatever, and we're locked into this old Spack thing for various reasons. But when it came time to get stuff done, it worked really well where Roger could move a binary from A to B to C and everything just worked. And so I've had discussions on the Spack side, and one thing that we've talked about was getting the specs we want, making sure that they work static and shared, and handing this off to Livermore and saying, hey, can we get this into the CI testing? Because this is what the apps use, right? Sierra, Spark, Gemma, whoever, right? And we have a big list, and we have it annotated with who wants what.
Yep.
And if Spark wants a different spec for X, then let's put it all together and hand this off. That way, their side of it can make sure that when we sit down and spec something, it's going to do the right thing.
You're describing precisely like the exact reason that we want to do those two CI builds for one, if we can keep it to two, one for Ramses, one for CompSim. I mean, I know that maybe that's folly, but it would illuminate some of those spec lists, because we have the spec lists we use, right? But if it's, like you said, if it's for one of the downstream application codes.
Make it Livermore's problem. Let Spack put it in their CI.
So we will totally have that once that's done. So the sharing of Spack's usefulness aside, as building things for you, the ability to use a common descriptor language about what it is you're building, that right there is massively beneficial.
So we also want to share this with the procurement vendors and with our vendor partners, because HPE, AMD, NVIDIA want to be able to reproduce what we're doing on the inside. I've been able to get them doing Trilinos actually, so they can build, actually some of them are building Gemma and Empire and Spark, which on their own, which is a huge step saying about stability. But something that is still a bit of a mystery is, being able to actually have them testing kind of like the whole enchilada. And when you get a procurement exercise, they're going to need the TPLs and Trilinos, and that's where Spack is gorgeous. And so what we want to do is be able to hand this off to them. And the containers is something, but a lot of them are, I don't know if we could just hand a container.
No, we won't hand them the container, but the Docker file, the way we have it written, the Docker file contains inline a full Spack environment file, which has every Spack in it, right? Sorry, every spec in it. So we will have that they can just pick up, no problem, right off GitHub. Or they could, if they want to try the image themselves, but again, they're going to want to modify the environment, right? Because it's going to specify, they're going to look at it and say, we don't want an open MPI, we want our own MPI. And that's totally fine.
I mean,
there are other use cases for that too. Like, we have external customers who, they build our app for their clusters, and their clusters may be different from our clusters. And so like they want to build up complexity with the packages that they're testing.
Yeah.
And so they need that information too for it to, maybe they just want to try Cocos first or.
I mean, specifically, we want the exact specs and all the variant gunk that everybody has. We just want to write it down. And right now, I think that's very distributed and hidden away probably.
Can you just take the log file that Spack produces and hand it to them?
I think the point is which spec where, right?
Right.
The one for Trilinos is now public on its GitHub in its actions. They could go look, we can say, look right here, and we can give them the input specs that we say we need. Then they could also get the lock and show exactly what we got per build, right? So we have that. But what we don't have is the configuration that Ramses and CompSim care about.
There was, quirks a while back where HDF5 changed their package in a certain way, and it started producing shared library junk, and on LCAP where MPI can't run, these kind of bugs pop up, and nobody's testing it on that. And it's the kind of thing where to catch that, it would have had to go through the Livermore side to figure it out. But nobody was really testing that, and it fell on a few people, right? I mean, different people hit it in different ways. And my point is that it would just be nice if we could organize this a little bit better and shove it off to Livermore, whoever Spack, right, or Oregon, whoever, and let them have our specs and let them be blessed, and then have some some point of contact from Sandia to them to keep it up to date, right? So
I can
it
say
doesn't fall.
Sierra has that now. As far as sharing it, I'm not gonna make any comments, but, how we wanna deal with the,
I mean, is this how things are handled internally right now?
Internal to who?
At Sandia on all the different platforms?
Who does what?
How does, I mean, right, I mean, I assume AUE sort of manages the modules.
Sierra doesn't use those modules. Well, it doesn't use, so Sierra only uses them for the compiler and API.
I see.
We don't use
We're not using modules at all for Spack.
Yeah.
Fair, right, but we use the installation.
But we use the
People are
installation
building their
sets,
own
yeah.
thing.
Okay,
for
so
Spack.
even internally though, this process isn't, I mean, are we using I guess the question is, are we using this process internally?
No. Right, I mean, so I asked this question maybe 5 years ago at the LCAP, started this to try to get the specs. And I don't think, Sam, I don't think you were the guy then, right?
I was
It
at that, but,
someone else.
but we didn't use Spack then.
Yeah, that's right.
So it was like, we could try, but the good news is that I would say we can't turn around in a day and address your concern.
Yeah.
But we are closer to now where if you had that concern, you can right now reach out to anybody on the Sierra side and they can give you a list, email it to you.
Yeah.
And we could provide it to the vendor. It might change, right? So, there's, again, some questions about the maintainable way to do that. Or, if we're worried about sharing any of that, I don't know, probably not, given what it is. But,
So
it's significant progress has been made towards realizing that desire, because I agree, that is the desire, sharing configs.
I don't wanna kick a dead horse, so I talked with Joe on this, this is maybe a different topic, but we were getting into the procurement exercises where there's kind of two tracks of things you're doing. One of them is where you want procurement people to be able to run proxy apps or our real applications. And what we wanna give them is a very stable version of Trilinos and Cocos that's gonna be reproducible over time. So you're not telling them to clone develop, you're telling them to clone this version of all this stuff and run this exact way. That way in the future, we can go back in time and do exactly that again. And then you also have the case of actual stand-up on new machines, like on El Capitan, and now we're gonna be going into the Los Alamos one soon. On that, how do we facilitate the usage of Spack and things like that, where it becomes very volatile? And so I think what Joe's got going is gonna work really good for the stability side, because it's gonna kind of lock versions down, hopefully, so that all these old things click together. But the idea of so at Livermore, they're gonna probably do this, where they want the stand-up to have a Spack recipe for everything. They wanted this on El Capitan, so that they can give it to HPE and it becomes part of the procurement exercise, where they get milestoned on that. And we couldn't do it, right? Neither could Lannel. None of us were ready for that. But the vendors, they're getting pushed on high from upper people to try to get more Spackified and use it internally. And then they come to us and we're not really ready for that in this fast-paced thing, where you really want them to be cloning develop because it's gonna have all the patches and fixes in it. But yet the thing like Joe's doing is not the right model for something that's changing under your feet all the time. So I think maybe that's something for us to think about, because I don't know the answer to it. But how do we work on these new machines, or work with vendors to co-design things where we need them to be fast-paced and moving?
So correct me if I'm wrong, Malachi and Julia, but that is effectively realized on the Sierra side at this point. Their new build system is fully Spack, period.
It
And they're
is.
using it on the new hardware from day one.
And then you find out that Victor locked the Rock'em at a version that was like 8 months old or 6 months old.
We do the stuff like that all the time, yeah.
Yeah, and so, then he bumped it up because of a milestone, because it had the bug fixes in it.
Mhm.
But of course, Empire has the same thing. I think I kicked the can a little bit faster on that, because I tried to test Trilinos on it. But, I think the fact that Sierra has this issue as well, Jim, I'm sure, has it, other teams have it, I'm sure. And that's the problem,
What's the issue? I'm sorry, Shane.
that
That we're version locked at tool chains?
we get version locked on tool chains on these new machines, because it's hard to move forward really fast.
Well, there's a reason why we're
lock on those, right? Because like they changed the tool chain, it doesn't work, so. I mean, I
But
don't
that's
understand.
right, but to make it work, we need to give the vendors the ability to reproduce that problem on their side in their little house, and it's, right, you know.
I mean, they could do that for Trilinos, right?
I mean, it's
How,
like,
right, so I can give them a configure script, the CMake raw script. I can't exactly give them a Spack spec right now because we're not up to that level yet. We might be in the
And that's why I'm
future.
saying we absolutely are at the level where we can do that on the Sierra side. But Sierra is not Trilinos. Is Sierra sufficient for that, given the data protection controls, right?
Yeah.
I'm not saying that
So maybe
solves
we
your
can talk
problem.
about this offline. I didn't wanna like to derail this, but there's two tracks on that. One of them is having a very stable thing going forward for doing acceptance testing, where you wanna reproduce the same versions every time and all that. And then there's the fact that you have like a fast-paced platform where NVIDIA, AMD, or Next Silicon is changing everything twice a week. And the build systems and tools we have, it's hard just to click that off and have them be able to click it off. I can do it, Victor can do it, other groups, you know, they're expert in the field can do it, but the vendor can't keep pace with us on that, because the method to do it is like handing off a bash script or some horrible thing where we do all kinds of hacky stuff because it's a broken machine. And so it's a very advanced level of Trilinos. And I don't know what the answer to it is though, but getting that into the vendor's hand is how you get things fixed. So.
But I would argue that the vendors also need to make a bit of an effort to actually use the things that, I mean, it seems that a lot of the time we handed them things and we told them, oh, we will sit down with you and build this, and that was it.
Yeah. It's hard, right? I mean, we've had some success and some many failures, but I think we're further along than we've ever been right now with AMD and NVIDIA having quite a bit of our tooling on the inside right now, where we have actually dedicated people at HP, AMD, NVIDIA that I know of, and Next Silicon, that are, you know, on the hook to try to work with us on it. And I think what I'm getting at is how do we make that easier for them? And right now it's passing around CMake scripts.
Oh, with Cocos, they can do that today, right?
Kind
They
of.
don't,
Kind of. I mean, they're doing something, right?
but they're still like,
But we have-
they're still updating tool chains. that
But we
don't
have a
work with
million
Cocos,
knobs.
right? Well, maybe we don't have enough downstream things to test.
We've got so many knobs to turn on these things that it's hard for them to know which one is the right set. And that's even a different problem in a way, right? But this is a topic that's come up. I think the benchmark and procurement one is probably the easier one to tackle, the stability. And that's where a lot of the Spack excitement comes from. And I think where Joe's going on this is gonna be good, and the containers that Sam has. So, but
Yeah, it's
we're still getting there, right?
It's
I mean,
not
this is
real.
just happening.
It's
And
just
yet
like,
we're already
you have config,
neck
you're
deep in a
fixed
new
specs.
procurement.
And then
So,
you just change the version of the spec to
Yeah.
the latest.
Anyway,
could
sorry, don't wanna
enforce
interrupt.
latest.
So we are at time, right? But I'm willing to stick around and have further conversations and other questions, but we can also call it. So where is everybody at?
Who put up that X-Petric?
That's probably Chris. I dropped the mic and I'm walking upstairs. I could probably take that on as part of the block AMD stuff. The block CRM's matrix.
Oh.
Because I need it. So I guess I'm in the unique perspective to dictate what we need, both as a Trilinos developer
This is great.
and a Sierra developer.
You're the man with two hats.
Do you know what you're getting into?
No.
Wait a minute, Malachi, you're turning into hiding.
Don't do that.
I think Ex Petra is on the chopping block. Is that right?
Yes.
Right, Jonathan?
Slowly but surely.
Yeah.
What's the history of Ex Petra? Is Ex Petra after, it was after E Petra?
It's to wrap E and T.
To wrap the two, okay.
Right,
Wrap
so
the two
now that E
because-
is gone.
Yeah, the
Yes.
X can also go away, okay.
Yeah, Mulu existed before T-Petra
Yeah.
was really fully functional.
So you needed Ex Petra for that?
It also let us very easily test like performance and correctness issues.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
that would be
swap
nice.
between the two.
Yeah,
Yep.
normal interface library.
And what's the timeline for ex Petra going away?
We don't have one.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll have to remedy to that.
And we're sort of chopping away at it, but ripping it all out at once is really not an option. So it's more like, oh, can we sort of like carve out like little
Yeah,
pieces that
yeah,
we
we have
can
a plan.
remove?
Right, there's an issue that like the ex-pet removal is a plan for how we want to do it. It's just we've got to move we have to reduce it to a thin candy shell first.
Okay. Cole? I think we've covered everything that people have posted.
Oh, no.
Nice.
Oh,
We've got
the
nice.
so,
That's a question for everyone. Does anyone look at the Trilinos night?
so
Maybe it's a show of hands.
I presume you're on CDASH somehow?
So I will say that we are looking at that at least weekly as part of the operational meeting.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh.
That's what you told me.
So that's on my list, and been talking with Sam to make sure it's all, everything's getting posted and such. You are cleaning it all up. But at least on the biweekly set of meetings, we will be looking at the nightlies. The general plan is someone would contact, packages that have come up with, has shown up as failing on the nightlies, so that at least we got starting a path of trying to address them.
So Ross, a long time ago, had some way of sending out emails.
Yeah,
Is
we're
it
not
possible?
doing that.
No?
That was a disaster.
I'm reminded of Drakified FPY.
I have to say, owner of Trilinos, I liked it because then it told me something was going on and I went and fixed it.
So I ignored them because of that, it exists there.
I mean, I'm okay with that if it's for very stable platforms, but we just got so much email when we did
Well,
that.
I mean, I'm hoping the nightlies are stable, right?
Well, they weren't for that, ones.
I think at the moment, yeah, we got to get it into a reasonable state so we don't have that problem. Then it might be feasible,
Yeah.
but I don't think we're there.
I mean, as I was reminded recently, we have a kitware contract, and complaining about CDASH is something that we can actually use it for, so.
Right?
Because whatever setting, because I tried to mess with the email stuff for our CDASH stuff, and it just did not make any sense at all. I should complain to them and say, fix this.
Right, so we could try that contract.
Yeah. That basically no one is using from what Quincy's poll is, so.
I mean, our problem wasn't with the functionality, it was with the approach, which we had all these bleeding edge platforms. We got so much noise because the platforms just weren't stable, so everyone ignored the ones that actually mattered.
I mean, my issue is I just forget to look at, I know they exist, right? But
Yep.
I forget to look.
I just keep a tab open, sometimes I refresh it.
That works.
But that's why it will likely be the beginning item of our operational meeting. Just, hey, let's go through it. Hopefully it's not a long list. Somebody talk to somebody about taking a look at it.
You can vibe code a command line interface pretty easily too. That has like more sophisticated filtering than what CDASH does. So like if you really want to say like, oh, only tell me about these platforms and tests that like kind of vaguely fit like these keywords or these have these things in its name.
I think now it only emails if something changes. So if it's the same number of errors, it won't email me again.
Nice. Like, it didn't get any worse, so.
Yeah.
But we need something smarter than that because like something else found it. It's like,
Who put up the AMDPR testing?
I'm just gonna keep on asking for it.
Oh,
I think Sam already answered that question in his talk.
What, was that answer no?
The hardware has to exist.
I know, yeah, which has been the same answer for the last 2 years.
well,
But we-
run into the same thing as CI testing where it's like, it's like,
Yeah, I
reasonable
think the
amount of time
caveat
is
PR versus nightly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what's for.
You don't want.
Because I agree on the nightly.
We don't have the hardware, so like, it doesn't really matter how long it takes.
Irrespective of that.
It's a more nuanced answer, I guess, than the
Yeah.
nightly one. We have the hardware, it's not public, so do you want non-public PR builds again? Would you, I mean,
not public, it's not on the SON, or, okay, I mean, like, you guys, you made the right decision to take all this and keep this on the SON, so like, you know, we'll just wait.
We can do it.
Yeah, but at some point, I wanna stop being the one who has to keep Trilinos building on that.
I know, and we've been
We
on
have
this problem for
time.
what, 2 years at this point?
I've been doing it for 5 years.
That-
I've been
that-
I'm the
that
only
was
one
general.
Yeah,
does it.
yep.
Oh, is there no night?
I build Trilinos too.
There's no
I
night.
build it with my stuff.
I do.
That doesn't count,
But-
dude. Everyone's building with my stuff.
We can add them, but no, they're all gone.
But that's the first step, then we wait till we have an OHPC machine.
I mean, wasn't that the whole point of this hubcast thing, to do that? I mean, it would just tell you yes or no, but
Really?
the logs would be somewhere else, right?
I haven't seen anybody request.
Why, I mean,
It's
if
true.
we have the hardware, can't we just?
Wait,
We
what is
didn't
this
request
about
it.
Hubcast?
Yeah, I mean, couldn't you just do that to
requested
get
it,
on,
but
RZ
we had
Adams or
people ask
whatever?
for it.
Yeah, like you're
Yeah,
doing
my
something
300,
that's like
200.
behind, I mean, we do this for other types of testing too, where you
Yeah.
basically
So you were
report a
talking
true or
about that.
false, like did it fail or did it
I
succeed?
don't wanna put
So
words
even
in.
if the
Something
resources
somebody has
behind
to
it,
do.
Yes,
yeah,
it's
somebody
on-
has
it
to
is
look
technically
and
on
see.
the request list
where
for
it's
people
more
that,
broadly available.
ask for hardware, but they
So you
don't
get,
have
you get,
money
you
to get
get
any
like at
hardware
least
right now,
maybe some metadata about what it built.
basically.
But what if we just said cross compile and don't do run,
Sure.
right? I mean, that's what
Totally
Christian
doable.
was suggesting in some.
That's what I was starting to investigate. I think
Cross compile where?
if anywhere.
Anywhere.
Just cross
You do
compile.
it anywhere.
Like any container?
Yep, in a box,
Hey, there you
and
go.
just
Yeah.
make sure it compiles.
I think Cocos Kernels has a working Rocking container. I believe Luke told me that
That's
a while
better than
back.
nothing.
We could do that. If the container works, we could do that with a very low amount of effort.
AMP's got their container.
Yeah,
Okay.
let's go use
I mean,
it.
that's, yeah.
Okay, not very low. I mean, you know, it'll be the normal exercise of making sure that the TPL's built, but that has
Which
typically
he's
been
already
very
done, I
straightforward.
think.
Yeah, I mean, we
Yeah.
had a Mulu
Yeah.
nightly build.
I remember,
which
yeah,
is-
I talked with you and Luke about it at that point. It's not that big of a deal if you don't wanna execute tests.
Good. I mean,
So
that's-
apparently AMP's also providing their compilers as a binary nightly download, where you don't even have to install anything, you just download a tar and it has the Rockroom stuff in
I
it.
remember hearing that from somebody.
So,
And that could be on the SON?
I guess, you just get it, I guess,
It's
I
on,
don't know.
it's on GitHub, right?
Oh, it's on
Yeah.
GitHub,
Right?
never mind.
So you can just build AMD's compilers with Spack,
Yeah,
anybody.
technically, yeah.
Sure,
So I
maybe we
assume
can
that they're
already
open.
get them pre-built.
No, I'm not, I didn't mean that. I meant that there's no access control on them. They're public.
Yeah.
The build is like 24 hours.
It takes a while. I mean, when I did, it takes a while, but yeah.
That's when you're in trouble with
I was only answering yes, we
Yeah,
can do it on the
in
SO.
theory, you can build it.
Yeah,
Cool.
But it's not gonna happen tomorrow.
No, that's fine.
Why that the entire-
Sorry, the fact
6
that
months.
we're gonna
Is that
have,
the
we're gonna have
entire
something
discussion?
rather than the hardware that we're never gonna get, I think this is great.
I mean, there are MI 300As at UO. I don't think I'd count on those for PR though.
No, no, gosh, no.
But we
Yeah.
probably could do nightly,
Well, they say
maybe,
try to just-
maybe. I mean, we're a very expensive code to test, right?
You could do nightlies on Eldorado, right? Like if you
But
wanted to
keep
do
the
nightlies.
results public, right? It's,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it, you know, you all tell me what's more important, having them nightly, having them CI, having them nightly, having them publicly available.
I would say.
Having them.
CI is number one, all else is secondary.
CI build only.
Yep.
Yep. No, CI build only is number one.
Totally doable. That was actually on the plan last year, but, well,
These things happen.
lots of other stuff was on the
Yep,
plan.
yep.
And the other thing, I did talk to Samir, and, you know, the current build that they do on Frank only really does, I believe, like 4 packages. And I said, hey, might be much more useful if we could do one of our CI builds that's at least doing a lot of packages. And he said he was very open to that. So I think we need to talk with
He
him.
will say that about using Frank to do literally anything. It doesn't matter how expensive. It would almost certainly be very disruptive to all other users of that node.
I'm willing to push it and let him push back because he offered.
I think, I don't know that he'd be pushing back. The HPSF CI working group would probably do that pretty quickly. I did test that, it works. But it took a long time just to build T-Petra and run its tests, like not sustainable for PR testing.
I'm not even talking for just PR testing, but just take advantage of Frank and and just get a build.
So, Jeff Sharp is working on that, under Jim, on the peso effort right now with that funding.
Nice.
Okay, cool.
We need to monitor it, though, or it's not useful.
Right.
This sounds like the operational leadership could look at this, you know.
I don't know about that. Cool. Anything else? We have officially run over. We're moving into way over. Let's call it. Thanks, everybody.